enough of that music. That's good. How you doing, friends? Dun, 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 dun. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Can't just shut it off. All right. That's good. We got to get going here. Do, do, do. I love that music. How you doing? This is 0 Days to Expiration, and this is the final hour show. I think I've also called this a podcast. I have a couple of announcements to make, and there'll be more to say about this after the Christmas vacation, somewhere between Christmas and New Year's. We're going to be changing up the format here for the final hour show. It'll be more structured. It'll be more poignant. What I mean by that, there will be scripted topics and more densely, more densely packed information in the show. I've been working with a fellow out of England who's going to help me produce these shows. So enough said about that. This show is about. I hear a lot of wrestling going on up there. Anyways, this show is about the dynamic duo. Now, that's one of our. That's a new strategy that we're going to explore and take a look at in more detail here on this show. It is an extension of our basic strategy that we use for 0 DTE that is all based on or around a butterfly-like strategy. And the reason why we do that is so that we can get the asymmetry in our trade. We want to have the right risk to reward. Hold on. I don't know if it's just me or are there the dogs going nuts up there? Can you hear like rumbling? It could be me. Yeah, there's something crazy going on up there. Always at this time, too. Boom, boom, bang, bang. Yeah, there's something going on up there. It's like nonstop. I mean, how can it be possible that everyone decides to like start dancing right above me? Can't control anything around here. So, anyways, our basic strategy here on 0 DTE is an out of the money butterfly, and I look at this as sort of a passive aggressive trade. And what I mean by that is that we put it on. There's not a lot. There's really no adjustment to it. Either price moves into that fly or not. We then can either take advantage or take profit off or not. It's like kind of an all or nothing thing. And when we are within certain ranges, then we can make really good profit. Now, I know this all sounds kind of hold on. All right, I'm back. I I wanted to go find out what was going on up there. It's like there's dancing or rumbling around or whatever. And so I yell up there and I say, "Hey, we're vlogging down here." And my wife says, "Oh, shut up. It's my birthday." So that solved that problem. All right. So let me start over. This show is about the dynamic duo, and it's a variation of our basic strategy, which is really the out of the money butterfly. What we do here with zero DTE is we play off the principle of a risk to reward, asymmetric risk to reward, and the greater we can make that asymmetry and get it as close to money as possible, the better our long term prospects are. And that's a great trade, and it works fantastic. However, we can expand on that. And here's the problem with it. The problem is that you have to choose either below the money or above the money. It has to be out of the money somehow so that you can get the asymmetry. The further you push your butterfly away, the greater your asymmetry is between risk to reward. Of course, there are limits, and you want to be able to be in the trade. If price goes the wrong way, then there's really no trade. You either there's nothing you can do. You take a max loss, but the loss is very small, so it's not a big deal. And for a lot of people, it's kind of a boring thing because of that type of trade, you naturally are going to have a lower win rate. But if you have, uh, you know, can you hear that, or is it just me? Oh man, I think I'd be better off. I really pick it up in the with these microphones and on this phone, but it is all I hear is just like dancing up there. You hear that? You hear that rumbling? Yeah, it's like constant moving furniture around or something. Ah. All right, I'm trying to concentrate on this, but that's all I hear is boom, 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 boom. It's not that loud on your end because all I hear it's just pounding in my ears. It's really hard to concentrate. I'm sitting here trying to think of what's the next thing I'm going to talk about. Boom, 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 boom. All right, the joys of live streaming. It's slowing down. Okay. All right. So, as I said, our so anyways, our main strategy, like I said, is this single butterfly, all or nothing. Either you win or you don't. My win rate on that type of strategy is around 55%. I used to think that I could do some sort of geo macroeconomic analysis and come up with a directional bias, and then somehow I was going to increase my odds of getting the direction right because it is basically a directional trade. And that was great last year when the direction was one way and it was up, and it was easy to pick direction. Of course, the Fed is no longer pumping money into the market, and there's turmoil and volatility, and the market goes any which way. And so I'm no longer making, achieving win rates of 75, 80, 90%. And so I guess in a way, I was kind of delusional into thinking that I actually had the secret sauce to be able to choose direction. And then this year came along, and none of that worked out. Now, that was great last year because in that kind of environment, this strategy is so powerful because you can put on a trade that has such small entry criteria, such small risk, And if price moved into your profit tent, you have a 1 to 10 risk to reward. It was fantastic. You could pin trades, once a week and have these huge winners all the time, and I was routinely doing, 15, 20, 25% return months. So once the reality set in, and that was that in January, the market turned around, that wasn't happening anymore. And so I kept with it for a while. I kept on doing this analysis every morning, and then started to realize that, man, it's not the analysis. It's not me. I am not that good at picking direction. I think I'm better than most, but still, I'm only 55% at best. So, but that's okay, because even with that, the types of returns that we get when we are right on direction are really spectacular, and you can still do a 4 to 5 to 7% per month on a strategy like this with a very low win rate. So they got me to thinking that, well, if I can't pick direction, can I go a little bit more non-directional? And of course, the way most people do zero DTE with non-direction is that they do an iron condor, and they put the left and right wings way out of the money so that they can cover all possible situations. Now, the problem with that is that, yeah, you get asymmetry, but you get it in exactly the wrong way. You get a high probability trade because you spread these wings so far out, maybe 5 or 7 delta, so that there's supposedly a 95 or 97%, 93% probability of profit. The problem is that you're risking or putting up about $1,000 to make maybe $100, and that $100, you're not even taking that. And most strategies, they cut that in half because it takes a long time. It takes almost all day for you to achieve that $100 that you're going after. So premium collection is extremely slow, and because of that, time is not on your side. If price moves and threatens one of the wings, you could have a catastrophic loss. So while you can easily do this small wins one after the other, and go 5, 10, 15 days in a row with tiny wins, and that satisfies a lot of people. They get that dopamine drip. You've probably heard me talk about that. The problem with that, it's just getting worse. The problem with that is that every once in a while you hit one of those wings and experience that max loss, and that ends up wiping out 2 or 3 weeks of profits. It's really, and plus most of the time you're under this kind of strain and anxiety because of the gamma curve on that type of strategy. You're constantly running into that, and you're in the red for a good portion of the day, and you're hoping that you're going to stay inside of the wings. So that's the problem with most non-directional trades, is that you're giving up that high probability by putting on that risk. And so you have that big risk, and hey, you hope you can manage it away and not deal with it. But it has all these other issues that come with it, and we solve that by putting on a lower probability strategy. But I thought, well, what would happen if I put a fly on both sides? So that was something that I'd looked at for a while, and it made a lot of sense. So now you put a great risk to reward butterfly on either side of the market, and you start off with that like a static trade, assuming you don't know which way the price is going to go. So it's directionless. The problem with that is that you have to put it out of the money sufficiently on both sides, so that leaves a pretty big gap in the middle, and you're effectively reducing your overall risk to reward by about 30%. So you're removing some of that advantage, but it's still a big advantage. That risk to reward, still you're going after trades that are 1 to 5, 1 to 6 risk to reward, and so that's a good thing. And the management of these strategies are relatively easy. It's, again, this sort of passive aggressive strategy. You put it on, you don't bother. There's no adjustment. You're not taking off one strategy the other. You're living with the risk that you put on, and you're just waiting for price to move either to the left or to the right. And that also has a good long-term positive expectancy. So then I thought about it a little bit more, and I thought, man, you could tailor these a bit, and maybe put one on after the other, or change the exposure that you have on one side or the other. And depending on the size of your account, you could add as many as you'd like. Uh, so, for instance, we could create this kind of dynamic situation that it would allow me to model just about any market condition or situation that I want. And the way you would do that, like today, I put on a fly earlier in the morning, below the market, because I felt like the market was going to go down. And of course, I was wrong, but I put the trade on, and it looked pretty good. And price was hanging around a structural element of the market, and it looked like it could go up or down, but I felt it was going to go down. And then it became apparent that it was going to go up because it got above that structural element, used that as support, and then started to build. This is early in the morning, just before the market opened. And I thought, man, that trade's not going to work. And it looks like we're going to potentially move up strong. And so I didn't want to just put on a fly that's inexpensive. It has a certain width, because I felt like we could easily move through that too. So now I would have two flies on, and and potentially lose on both. So what I did was I created a broken wing fly to the upside, so that should price move through that fly and keep on going, then I would be covered. Uh, and if it stayed within my range, I still had the advantage of potentially getting that real high max profit. So that got me thinking that, man, I can create these different variety of trades and model just about any combination that I can think of, or just about any kind of market development that happens as we're going further on into the day. And all because I can control things like how far out of the money I want to be, how wide I want the fly to be, whether it's a broken wing or unbalanced. So there are wide ranges of variety that you could create with these dual flies on both sides of the market, and weight them however you want. And so that's why I'm calling it the dynamic duo. Now, still, there's no real management here. There's a little bit. I mean, once the market kind of, um, in most cases, will kind of commit one way or the other. Although that wasn't the case yesterday. Who knows what the market was thinking yesterday? That was just a crazy day. But today it committed, and so once it commits, you can put this other trade. You can play this other trade and take the other trade off, and still it might still have some meat on the bone, so you can recover that. Now you have a still a very nice risk to reward. Some, in my case, it was like 1 to 7, 1 to 8, and and the beauty of these trades is that you don't have to be right. You can be almost right and still do really well because of that asymmetry. What I mean by that is that you don't have to be inside the profit tent to do really well. You only have to be close. And although that might not be totally satisfying to make, 50 or 75 or even 100% return on your risk, to a lot of traders, that sounds like unbelievable. For us, we're always looking for this 200, 300, 500% return. It still is a great consolation. And then when it does move in your direction, and you can make 2, 3, 4, 500%, like we did on Monday, I think we made around 8 or 900% on our trade. It's great. And what it ultimately comes down to is, what does your returns look like? What is the shape of your returns? Are your losses small? And are your returns, do you have that long tail, skewed right distribution of returns? And that's really what we're going after, which is exactly the opposite of the way most people are trading like with the high probability strategies. They have a skewed left type of distribution, which is rather scary. It's horrible. I mean, there are so many advantages to having a skewed right distribution, just in terms of your overall um, attitude when you're trading. I mean, you're never really panicked. You're never really in a situation where you have to worry about big losses. So you can, there's an inherent edge in that type of trading because you don't have that anxiety. You're clear headed. You can make logical, reasoned decisions. So, anyways, the whole point. I'm almost over the pounding. It looks like it feels like it stopped. All right. So the whole point is that we now have two strategies. We have basically three different strategies. They're all based on the same principle of asymmetry. We have the what we call the classic out of the money butterfly that has very little risk to large potential reward. We can get profits at any time of the day, or we can bring it all the way into the end of the day for potentially a pin trade, like what we saw on Monday. Um, or we could play. That's a directional strategy, more or less. So if you could have a simple strategy that says something like, go long when price is above the 50-day moving average, go short when price is below it. And if you did that more often than not, you'd probably be right in terms of direction. And if you're right in terms of direction, you're going to do very well with this strategy. Because look, what ends up happening is you'll get a winner to loser ratio of about 2 to 1. And if you're right half the time and you're winning twice as much as you lose, you're doing really well. And then if you have the possibility, you never have the possibility of large losses, but you do have the possibility of gigantic wins. Again, you're doing really well. And so what I'm finding is that this dual strategy now, even if it's just the static version, I'm not even talking about the dynamic duo, which I was getting to. Its profile is a little bit different than the single strategy, but it's still similar. Our losses are actually smaller and fewer. Our small wins are smaller and fewer, but our mid-size and big wins are bigger. Bigger, well, they're not bigger, but they're more frequent. They're about the same size, maybe a tiny bit smaller, but more frequent. So we now, I guess, from a statistician's point of view, or someone who's into a distribution curve, if you look at the normal distribution, our kurtosis has been lowered, but now we have fat tails. I know it sounds so weird. So we're skewed right with lower kurtosis and fat tails. And that results in a higher win rate, and actually, well, hopefully, we haven't really proven this out, but at least from anecdotal evidence, a higher or a larger long-term expectancy, greater returns. And so now the third version of that is what I call the dynamic duo, which goes the extra step. And this is where I'm kind of up in the air, because you again fall into that place where you think that you know the market and you're going to model the market. You're going to essentially pick direction and then weight your trades based on your pick. And so I'm not entirely sold that that's possible. But even if it isn't, if you weight or manage the relative risk exposure you have on one side or the other, and the potential on one side or the other, you could, and if you have a good risk management strategy, the only time that we ever have to really worry about risk in these situations are dead markets when you're just sitting right between the two strategies. And that's fairly easy to wipe away and to to manage. Occasionally, you might have an outlier that takes off one way or the other, but still, you don't care because your risk is so small. So if you have an outlier where things take off, okay, so it goes through all your trades and you make a tiny little loss. Um, but being able to now weight one or the other, if you can do that effectively, then you can further minimize your risk and the cost of situations where you think are less likely, and maximize the potential reward on if you're right in your direction. So that's the dynamic part, and it's not so much dynamic in that you're doing any kind of management or adjustment. It's all kind of set up right from the beginning, and that's a trade that I did today that was fairly successful. I mean, it made about uh, maybe 175% return on the risk. I wasn't totally right. I also got out a little bit early, and let me see if yeah, I made the right decision. So I got out, and it made okay money, and it's reversed a little bit. So that worked out well. So that's what we're going to experiment with going forward here, doing that. All right. After that, really sorry about all this noise here. I bought a bunch of sound blankets, and I'm going to totally isolate this area. I mean, I've built up this really nice studio here in my man cave, and I have everything that I want here. I've got computers up the yin yang. I've got about 7 or 8 computers here. I've got professional studio lighting, real high-end Sony A7 cameras, and the best microphones. I've got everything. You know, I've got soundboards. I got the Rode Pro. What is it called? Rodecaster Pro soundboard, and Black Magic switchers. Uh, Shure and Sennheiser microphones. It's really cool. The only problem is with all of that, I've got right above me is the kitchen where all the activity happens in my house. I took off the false ceiling here because I'm going to install this sort of apparatus that holds all the lighting and everything. And the problem with that now is that anybody that walks over that, although I don't think that they're walking, it sounds like they're dancing. Reverberates down here. So and I also I have other stuff here. I've got a pool table down here. I've got my own little kitchen. I've got everything. It's cool. And except that I get that noise of people right up there. So I bought these sound blankets. I'm going to take down the rest of the apparatus up here and put those sound blankets up there all around, and then just surround myself. It'll be cool. All right. Well, hey, I talked myself right into the end of the market. Well, let's do a roll call, see who's here, and see how they did today. I noted that most people did very well in our service today. It was a relatively benign day. So if you pick the direction correctly, and you hung with it, you probably did very well. So let's see who we have here. We have Brent. How you doing? Nice to see you. And we have Iz with his double barrel. Hello. Chona's here. How you doing? And Jahan. Good afternoon. And JMO Jones. What is that? VO Noob. That's a new one. I am welcome. I think you're new to the channel here. Thank you very much. Yes, it's the ghost of Zero DTE past up there. They're still at it. Still. Ah. Yes, it is Mrs. Varatimus's birthday, so we have to be kind. We cannot yell at her. But that's it. It sounds like they are moving furniture. That's exactly why. There's nothing to do here. We not no guests are coming over today. At least I don't think there are. Maybe there are. Oh crap! They're probably setting up there. That could be it. Yeah, I'm glad someone else is hearing it. Right? Kerry Hill's here. It says it's not that loud on their end. Jeffrey Davis, how you doing? I'm rediscovering a fondness for the elegant simplicity of the classic butterfly strategy. It is, hey Max, how you doing? It is definitely one of the most flexible strategies out there because you would think a lot of people the way they play it as a neutral strategy to me seems like you're totally missing the power of the butterfly. All the power of the butterfly is out of the money as a directional strategy. When you use it as a non-directional strategy, it's kind of a dog, really, to tell you the truth. But as a directional strategy, it has tremendous power because you can put it far enough out of the money where you have tiny risks but huge potential profits compared to your risk. Often, I mean, we generally play somewhere between a 1 to 7 to 1 to 10, sometimes even a 1 to 12 or 15 risk to reward. We can put on a trade that costs us maybe $100, $200, and we're going after $2,000 or more. So and a, a fair amount of time we're hitting those pin trades like we did on Monday, and else we did the previous week. I mean, you don't have to hit too many of those to not only make your week, but one trade can make your month. And if you're hitting 2 or 3 of those a month, do the math. So Robro says he hit a quintuple. I heard earlier that you were going for a triple, but a quintuple, whoa. And Donald Steele is here. Well, I want to thank you all for showing up. If you're out there, smash that like button. And although that won't make the sounds go away, it will make me happy. Let's get those likes in double digits. It's Wednesday, still have two more days here. Tomorrow we have the employment report. And then I think on Friday we have the PCE, another inflation indicator before Christmas. I think that we're going to completely miss this year a Santa Claus rally. I really thought that we were going to have one earlier in the month, but that did not come to be. And then we have Christmas over the weekend, and then next year is that magical time between Christmas and New Year's. We'll have a full week of, we'll have a shortened week of trading because Monday will be the Christmas holiday, the day after Christmas. So that's what we have going forward. That in-between week is going to be a special week where I'm going to be setting up all this new content for the new part of the year. As I said, I'm working with a fellow out of the UK who's going to be helping me with my production and distribution of content. And so we're putting a lot of effort into that and how that's going to look in the new year. There'll be a premiere in the new year that will introduce it all. So hopefully you'll all be there. And I plan on putting out some really fantastic content around options trading and zero DTE. So that's really all I have right now. I'm sure that the wife is going to be coming down here pretty soon saying, hey, we got to go walk the dogs. So thank you all very much. Peace to you all. And thank you for putting up with all that banging. It's still going on. Someone must be coming over today. That's the only thing that I can think of. We must be having guests. It's the wife's birthday. We traditionally used to have every December 21st for years and years, a big party here. But we stopped that, after everybody's kids started to grow up and get married and all that. And, the chances of getting together and our lives all kind of dispersed. And what used to be this huge party that we had for like 15 years in a row started to go from 50, 60 people down to 30, then 20, then 15. And then we said, why bother? We're all doing different stuff. But today, I believe there's some people coming over to celebrate the wife's birthday. So if you can wish her a happy birthday, I really appreciate that. She will appreciate that. And we'll see you tomorrow. All right. Take care. Peace to you all. Love you. Bye. Music. Peace to you all.